All right, folks, welcome. This is Bob Tripathi at Digital Sparx Marketing, and we have a great guest today, Aaron Doherty. Aaron, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
Yeah, and we thought we'll talk a little bit about, of course, marketing, but marketing for B2B. And I know you, Aaron, have worked in a lot of different places, but mostly in marketing for B2B tech. So I know right now you're VP marketing at Hermann, but yeah, if you can give us a little overview about your background, that would be great, so our audience know who you are.
Sure, yeah. I guess it's kind of a funny story how I got started. I didn't study marketing in college. I studied mathematics and philosophy, actually. And that was like 2008, right? So the market crashes and there's no, actuary jobs or anything to be had. And I'm out there looking and I'm like, well, I did this thing in college where I used the old, very old Google Ads interface to sort of like do some understanding of how markets work and that sort of stuff, and managed to convince a company that if they would give me a small budget, 3 months time, I could drive a whole bunch of new business for them using this crazy new thing called Google Search. And I did, and continued to do that, and sort of just grew this love of marketing beyond that, right? Worked for a predictive analytics company in the early days. Worked for Salsify, one of Boston's greatest startups right now. I think they're valued over $1 billion currently. WordStream, another big Boston startup, acquired by Gannett. And now I'm with Hermann, helping this 30-year-old consulting company, sort of transition to a world where they're going to be offering their services through software, traditional B2B stuff. So it's been a lot of fun working with a lot of great people.
That's great, great, and I can see you're an out-and-out Boston, New England guy, so we won't go into the sports side of things, but yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, this is great. I mean, the best careers are ones where you actually fall accidentally, you love it, and you do more of it. So what have you seen in terms of transition? Like you started from search, and what you do right now is B2B and things. What have you seen change over the last 10 years?
Well, that's a hard question. I think 10 different marketers will give you 10 different answers. For me, I think the one thing that I've noticed is that I sort of joined marketing when content was king, when content marketing was the thing that everybody was really, really excited about. And now there seems to be more of a focus on the experience. So content is part of that experience, but it's really how the content is delivered. So video versus ebook, how the content comes at you. I mean, we were just talking about chatbots versus like your traditional lead pages and forms, and how the content is consumed, right? I mean, some sites have just taken to posting their ebooks in these interactive sort of, visual experiences, and there's nothing to download, right? In the old days, it would have been you download this PDF and it sits on your desktop for a month and a half until you delete it, never read it. So definitely. So I think it's this shift from the sort of number of ebooks a company is producing and pushing downloads for to the experience, to driving a really, really unique experience.
It's interesting. It's just, I mean, like the whole evolution, right? Like back in early 2000s, it was a search, which was everyone's, boy genius, right? Everyone's favorite child. And then, of course, the social came along, and then content and experience, as you're saying. But, it's great when you see that. But one of the big things, and I see from your career, is you worked a lot in B2B marketing. So what, according to you, differentiates like B2B marketing versus B2C? Of course, one is super dynamic, people buy or they don't buy, and the other. But what have you seen as a difference between the two?
That's again a tough question to answer.
Sorry.
I think there's personalization is a big thing in B2B. So account-based marketing is this big thing. I'm a big fan of that. It definitely takes a more data-heavy approach to measuring what your campaigns are delivering and targeting who your audience is up front and being really specific and really personal when you reach out to them. Again, more of like creating a custom experience for a very group of people. And consumer is the opposite. Consumer is like, how can we do a thing that's going to catch fire on its own and then sort of take on a life, you know, in and of itself, right? How do you create this idea and get it out to the world, or have people sort of share that idea for you? B2B marketing is more like, I need to reach you, Bob, where you are, and give you the thing that you're looking for right before you know you're looking for it, right? And have this opportunity to create a conversation. So I want to say scale, but it really feels like personalization is the major differentiating factor.
So basically a network or a viral effect versus giving you the resource at the right time, at the right place, kind of a thing, you would say, right? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's my bias. I'm big on the you know, demand gen, ultra targeted, you know, data backed. You know.
So you worked with some of the biggest tech companies in New England, Boston area. What have you seen some of the building blocks of B2B marketing for tech companies, for SaaS companies, you know, like Salsify or even WordStream, which was a little later stage. But what have you seen that differentiates those marketing organizations versus somebody, you know, who's not focused on marketing?
It's funny because I think it's the team and the way that the team works, right? So if a team has, and it doesn't need to be like super defined, it doesn't need to be super rigid. I think like a way of working that incorporates the skills that you have and that gets those people to stay engaged in a way that's sort of natural to them, right? And everybody's going to have a different way of engaging. So building a core team and then building a way of working that really helps that team to amplify their contributions. That's key in any environment. Whether you have $0 budget for acquisition or $6 million budget for acquisition or $100 million or all the technology in the world or none of the technology. If you have the right team and they're engaged and they're contributing in a way that is natural for them, you're gonna take over the world.
Right. So, you know, that's what it is, right? Like building a team, especially with the core B2B marketers in this market, and, you know, because not everyone would know every skill. How do you go about building and looking for those superstars, if you will, you know, or even B players that you can make them into A players?
Yeah, it's funny you ask because I've actually had a lot of experience recruiting my teams.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean literally like sending out invites on LinkedIn or reaching out to my network and saying, hey, you know, I've got this job. I think you should consider it. Your background looks like it's a good fit. I guess what I look for is a different perspective. So I think diversity of experience is essential, right? A lot of times I think in this market you see this sort of need for over specialization. So we need one person to do this very narrow function and to do that thing only and to never do anything different, right? I tend to look for people who have passion about what they do and then find a way for them to connect with the need that you have. Right, so I'll give you an example. At WordStream, social was fairly problematic. So we had a very large paid acquisition budget and a pretty competent team, you know, placing ads, creating ads, and creating a bunch of engaging media to sort of deliver on those things. But what we lacked was a strong organic presence. And here's why that's important, right? So we're not talking about brand building. We're talking about creating this really cool thing that Facebook and Twitter do automatically called engaged with page audience, engaged with profile audience, right? Facebook creates this automatically. And it's all of the people who have clicked or reacted rather on Facebook, shared, viewed, or liked your page, right? They've engaged with your content in some way. So they're sort of pre-qualified on a more organic level. And what you do is you remarket to that audience. You don't create these net new programs. You just remarket to the audience, and you get insanely low click rates, like $1 per click on a B2B sale, right? That's going to run, you know, several $1,000s beyond that. And so in this way, you can really aggressively scale your marketing programs. And WordStream lacked someone with the time, one, and the sort of deep experience in that community engagement aspect of that would be needed to drive and engage with page audience like that. So hit the bricks on LinkedIn and reached out to a number of folks and ultimately sort of found a bunch of qualified candidates here in the Boston area and settled on someone who presented, so that each one of the candidates were asked to create a presentation, settled on someone who presented on not just all the things that we were doing wrong today, but on all the opportunities that we could capture tomorrow, right? This is in the interview process, and this person really had a passion about what they were doing and had that sort of vision about what we could do next. And that to me says that this person is entrepreneurial, they're engaged, they're informed about the things that they're going to be working on, and they can sort of be trusted to manage it with not a lot of handholding. I think teams are a way of scaling a function, right? And the more you can find these people that are capable, the more that you can scale your overall function. And so we made an offer, they accepted, brought them on board, and it's been while I was there, it was very awesome to work with them. We did a lot of great things and a lot of efficiencies for the funnel as a result.
No, that's great. I mean, what you're mentioning exactly is, I think, number one, businesses should know what the problem area is that they want to hire for, right?
Yeah.
And look for generalists. I think even from somebody who's building a career, I think it's more apt to be a generalist as opposed to being a specialist. I mean, I've been interviewing recently for a digital position where we needed a generalist, and we had candidates so very 6 years in paid search, for example, right? So at many levels, you want to give the underdog the chance, but then how would you justify that? So I think a generalist will be way better. So when you bring people on board and you build your team, the core team that you mentioned about, what are some of the still B2B marketing tactics, for example, that work for Salsify, or your core tactics, this is the first thing which is go to, what else?
Bring them up to speed on Agile. Agile methodology is typically employed by product teams and engineering teams. They've been using it for a number of years. Marketing is, and B2B marketing in particular, is just sort of testing the waters on using the Agile methodology in the delivery of marketing materials and sort of the advancement of the overall marketing vision. And the artifacts here are like sprints and Scrum and retrospectives and that sort of stuff. And we'll get too deep into that, but bringing somebody on, one, I think you want to inform them about the product. You also want to integrate them in the culture. And so spending a lot of one-on-one time, even though they may be your direct report, is great to build that relationship. But to be honest, you're going to have a lot of time to build that relationship. What I've found successful is to connect them with their peers or with the other members of the team, right? Help them to feel at home, feel welcome, feel like they made a good decision moving to this company. And then to onboard them on how we work, right? A lot of the talk I find is both how can we improve the way we're working and what are we working on, right? So very rarely is the sort of team level chatter about the details of a particular content item or campaign or something like that. It's usually how can we do this faster, or how can we make sure that we don't miss this next time or something like that. And so onboarding new hires to that vocabulary, that way of working, which for me has been Agile since Salsify, really. Getting them familiar with the terminology there is absolutely essential.
Right. Nice. So in terms of tactical stuff, lead is the central nervous system of any B2B companies, right? And you want more leads all the time. What are some of the things that you typically have found to be successful? I mean, ABM is one of them, your content is one of them. What other things have you seen that tech companies are seeing more success?
So brand building, and this goes back to the experience thing that we were talking about before, creating a strong brand identity, and a strong, I mean, like everybody on the team sort of understands the values that you're putting out in the world. That's become a bigger thing in recent years, only because there are more more discrete ways of measuring it, right? More discrete ways of deriving value from a big campaign that you put out into the world. So personally, right, I watch Netflix and Hulu and HBO because I absolutely despise commercials. But in the same breath, I'm also a connoisseur of commercials, right? So, when I find a commercial that I absolutely love for some reason, I share it around with friends and my network and that sort of stuff. And that goes to brand building in a way that engages with your target audience. You don't need to create something that is for literally everyone. Mm-hmm. You understand who your audience is, develop a brand that resonates with what they need in the world, right, beyond your solution, and then engage them on that level. And so, like, you can do the thing that I was talking about before with the you create a video audience on YouTube, for example. You do pre-roll at very low budgets, and you create this automatic audience on the back end of Google. They do it for you automatically, of people who watched your video. They didn't click. They didn't jump right to a sales demo. They watched your video, and you paid very, very little for them to do that. 10 cents, 5 cents. Even less than that in some cases. You build this huge audience, and then you re-engage with them, bring them further down the funnel with a slightly higher investment. And before you know it, you're closing deals at, $30, all-in lead cost, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is sort of a long answer to getting more leads. Yeah. But understanding the way that your budget is being allocated for leads that are coming in is absolutely essential. And then breaking it out into different touch points. Let's say you had $50 budget per lead, right? Why spend $50 on one touch point? Like right. With a lead vendor, right? Why buy leads for $49? When what you could do is engage people on this experience where it starts with maybe a social interaction, maybe a video interaction, maybe an email interaction, right? All of those things which cost a little bit each one, maybe take a little bit longer to execute, but doing it, more and more and more, sort of like scaling the experience across a larger audience, you still achieve that $50 CPL, and what you get out of it is a higher quality lead, a lead that's more engaged with your content, a lead that understands what you're offering when they come in the door. And my personal favorite is a happy sales team.
Right.
It picks up the phone and says, "Oh, you've heard of us before? You're ready to talk about buying something? Awesome."
And
right?
Then you already, but I think you already scored them higher too, right? Because you've had multiple touch points right. According to you. So is that becomes a core part of your demand gen strategy? Is that what it is?
Yeah, multiple touch points is really essential because, again, if you put all your eggs in one basket on one touch point, what happens when that touch point fails, for example? I've worked with lead vendors on occasion, and they're really great to fill a short-term need. The problem is that one touch point is rarely enough to relay the complexities of a B2B solution, right? Usually it's like I'll give you for example, for Salsify, right? It's for large-scale e-commerce companies with multiple products on multiple retail endpoints. And at that point, like, there's so much detail in what I've just said, one touch point is not going to even come close to conveying the value that Salsify can offer. And yet they do. They offer tons of value, right? But what you need is those multiple touch points to tease up the story, to reinforce the value, to make that lasting impression.
But isn't the other thought too, like, let's acquire the lead in the first place, and then we'll take them and put them on a nurture track of some shape or form, right? And then we'll engage them on our terms once we have worked with an outside vendor to generate that initial lead, right? I mean, that's one way, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a pathway. I mean, I think it depends on the buyer. Technical buyers are not great at opening emails. I've never seen an IT person respond to a nurture program, which may just mean that their inboxes are fuller, right? And so I wouldn't say in all cases, an email-based nurture strategy is bad news, right? It's great news. It's free. It's a free touch point. But in the event that doesn't work for your audience, there needs to be diversity. Have a diverse portfolio. Diverse means reaching out to your audience.
Yeah, so true. I mean, you just can't just blindly follow one path, if you will, So what becomes a part of your core demand gen? I think multiple touch points, but is content part of your core demand gen, Trish?
Content, social proof is a big one, especially for B2B, right? Not just a logo wall, but quotes, testimonials, reviews. So
Mm,
many people are going to places like G2 Crowd and Trust Radius these days to sort of verify your marketing claims. That if you're not monitoring those channels, one, sort of stacking them with good reviews, and two, using the engagement features that they offer, you're missing out on a huge touch point because nobody is going to enter a sales cycle without reviewing what your company does and how well they do it.
right, right. Now, I know we're running out, but I think one of the things that you've done is managing a marketing function, a marketing team, while the company is being acquired or in the process of acquisition. So I think that was one of your earlier companies that you mentioned. So how do you keep your personal performance, your performance on the job, because that's tomorrow, next week, while you're being acquired or you will be acquired? How do you manage the two? Because if as a leadership, you can see what's going on, but your team won't, and people get insecure on things, right? So how did you manage, I think, at WordStream?
Yeah. Big change events like that definitely rattle people, right?
Yep.
Um, and I can't say that not everybody's going to be rattled, but you sort of have to do the prep work. You have to do the preventative maintenance there. So before a change event comes, I had the advantage of knowing that something like that was going to be on the horizon. You build tight relationships with your team. You keep them open to the idea that change could come and we could be acquired. This is a company that's doing really, really well. One of the possibilities is acquisition, right? And so then when it actually does happen, it's not this thing that they've never heard of, that they totally don't understand. A lot of coordination with other leadership folks, with the CEO, with the head of sales, like all of those folks. You want to make sure that you're not only conveying confidence to your team, but to everyone across the organization, right? Everyone needs to know that everyone's going to stay in place,
Yeah.
and that's what drives the confidence. It's like, as an individual, I feel secure if I see that other people feel secure. As an individual, I feel less scared if I see that other people are less scared. And being transparent, having the time for one-on-ones, addressing questions head on. I mean, all of that stuff. It's really important. It's hard to do, which makes it sound a little bit cliche here, but it is very important.
No, I remember like recently, I think last year when Marketo got announced that they were being bought over, that same morning, as soon as the release came, I got like 3 or 4 emails from
Yeah.
people I haven't heard from like 3, 4 years. So I'm like, oh my God, you're panicking. I know this. No, but this is great. So, Aaron, before we leave, what are some of the tactics or technology these days that you're really excited about and you're looking forward to? I mean, MarTech whole thing is so pervasive, but anything in particular that you're really excited about these days?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the experience, right? So the easier you can make the interaction with a brand, the easier you can make that for your target market, the more likely they are to engage. So I'm most excited about chatbot. I'm most excited about text. I've actually seen Verizon do a lot of really cool things with text. I haven't worked with them or whatever, but their customer support and sort of marketing follow-up now has a text channel you can engage with. There's a company in Boston that's working on e-commerce sales through text. It's really phenomenal, right? And it just goes back to the inbox, what we were talking about a second ago. If your inbox is crowded with nurture emails from the thousands of brands that you've engaged with, that one open channel, chat, text, web push notifications, like I've seen companies start to use those browser notifications as a channel. All of those sort of, forgotten channels are the next big thing. They're the new inbox, the new way of engaging with people. So, the more we can see on that front, the better.
Nice, super nice. Yeah, that's great. Aaron, is there anything that you wanted to talk about I didn't ask, or anything that you can think of?
Uh,
Probably
I
not.
mean, I'll make my subtle plug for
Yeah.
the use of more and better data in marketing. Um, I think there's a tendency for data to be, the end all be all, the fact that we now need to reorganize around. And there's a way to use data as one of multiple inputs of information, right? I think that's the right place for data. It doesn't need to tell us what to do, but it does need to be something that we include in our understanding of what we should do, what we have done, and what we could do better, right?
Right.
So the more you can do that, the better.
And I think data is, because I have this conversation with a lot of people, and then I'm like, give me some example, and they will have only one example, which is Google Analytics, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that. I'm pretty sure, But yeah, but this is great, Aaron. How do people reach out to you? Just LinkedIn, or yeah?
Find me on LinkedIn. Yeah. I do have a Twitter profile, but I'm pretty sure I haven't used it in 100 years. The best way to get me is on LinkedIn. You can find me there, Aaron-P-Doherty.
Nice, Aaron. This has been great. Thank you so much for making the time and sharing your insights. I know it was long overdue, but thank you again for doing it. And this has been great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bob. Pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.